Hey, it's me again. I got the time, so I'm doing videos. I asked once if you wanted to hear a story of me. With rousing success, I heard yes. I've been contemplating since then how to do this. Because I don't mean to sound idiotic, but there is so many stories and facets that I wasn't sure how to do it. So, what I figured I'd do is I do it by time zones. You know, childhood, I call mid childhood from like 8 to 12, then your adolescent period, teenage, so on and so forth. I guess that's what it's called, adolescent period. So that's what I decided to do. I can't get into all the stories just because of, there's so many of them. This would be a like 200-part series. Although some of them might be interesting, some of it might not. So we'll give it a shot and see how it goes over. Because I did this once before. Everybody was like, yeah, we want to hear stories. I did stories and they flopped. So here we go. I was born somewhere between 1962 and 1964. Not being aloof, but my one certificate says 1962, the other certificate says 1964. So I'm somewhere between 57 to 60. I was born on July 30th, the day the earth stood still. So that was that. When so my mom and dad was Elmer and Madeline Ritter. They were from Archibald, Pennsylvania. So there we go. I lived most of my life at a place called Mount Cobb. Little jerkwater town, railroad yard town. Let's see. Now, I have two brothers, or one brother now. My other brother died a few years back, and a sister. I was a late life baby. My next younger brother is 14 years difference between us. So he's what, 73, 74, something like that now. So that's that much about my history, my family, whatever. I was raised in a family farm. There was uncles, my aunts, cousins, everybody was that was called Ritter's Patch. It was a 48-acre farm. That 48 acres led into about 160 more acres that was wide open to us. So I spent time in the woods. We had a freshwater pond behind my house. We had two swamp holes. We had all the acreage. I spent time in the woods. Now, when I was about 4, my brother that passed away, he kind of thought he was like my father, and he started taking me out in the woods with him. I spent days deer hunting with him at 4 and 5 years old, and small game hunting, and so I couldn't shoot, but I certainly skinned a lot of animals when I was 4 or 5 years old because he taught me that too. Wasn't allowed to have a knife, so I used his. So then shit got nasty. My mom and dad bought a bar. I was 6. They bought this little dive bar out in the middle of the boondocks. So we moved from Mount Cobb to this little bar. It had a house and everything with it. Switched schools and everything. First fight I was ever in, I got into it with a kid named Art Hughes. He called me fat, and I busted his face in the bathroom of an elementary school in 3rd grade. So we were there for a couple of years. My brother was in Vietnam. My brother was oldest brother, or oldest brother was in Vietnam, and at the time, so we bought this bar. Now, there was no babysitters, and they wouldn't leave me alone in the house because obviously I was too young. So I grew up in a bar room. Anything you could think of that happened in a bar room, I've seen knife fights, I've seen guys stabbed, I've seen guys beat the whatever. Naked women, women doing things with guys in the bar after hours at night that, I was there, I seen it. So that was the start of shit. Now, my biggest memory of that was two of them of that time period of them owning that bar was a guy by the name of, let's just call him John. He he was yelling at me one night because he said, you're 5 years or six, whatever you are, you shouldn't be here. And I said, well, where should I be? He said, you should be in bed sleeping at this hour. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I said to him, well, they won't leave me home alone, so I have to, you know, well, you shouldn't be in this bar at this. And we got into a kind of a spat. He reached over the bar and he grabbed a hold of my hand. And at the time, I had a glass of Welch's grape juice, and I splattered him with it. Well, he reached out and he smacked me. And I ass ended up over the bar and jumped him at 6 years old. I think I more surprised him than got the upper hand on him because, let's face it, he was an adult. Big guy, too. But I got a few good looks in before they pulled me off him. And once they got me calmed down and everything, my dad had to pay for his shirt and whatnot. But the next major event of the bar room was we had a big Indian guy. He was a Chickasaw Indian. His name was Bo. Bo had a Bo had a skunk tattoo to his butt. So that was funny. But Bo carried a big Bowie knife, like a Western 49, the case Bowie knife. He got into it with a trucker by the name of Chet. And Chet broke a bottle, Bo pulled the knife, and they went at it. And both of them got cut up. I wouldn't say bad, but they got cut up. So I got sick and tired of it. I went and grabbed a pool stick and I laid Bo out with the pool stick. And he came back the next day. Man, I thought I was dead. Honest to God, I did. He came back the next day and he grabbed a hold of me outside. He said, you know what? I said, what? He said, that was great. I said, what's that? He said, I've never seen a 7-year-old kid or 6, whatever it was, that would have enough guts to lay a guy my size with a knife out. It was like, really at that time it wasn't guts, it was just reaction. So after that, my brother had bought me a sleeping bag. Excuse me, because we were going on an overnight fishing trip. And I used to take the sleeping bag and my pillow over at the bar. And it was called the trolley because part of the bar was an actual trolley, so it still had the booths in it, the trolley seats. So they were mobile, so I stuck 2 trolley seats together way in the back and made myself my own little house back there. I had my army men and my stuff, and I used to take the sleeping bag and go back there because it wasn't really heated that much, and go back there and I'd sleep on the seats. I put the 2 booths together and sleep on the seats. Now, as far as living there, kids I went to school with, there was a bunch of them around me. And oh man, every Sunday we'd get together in this open field that there was between the 2 houses, and we'd have football games. Oh man, we played football. We were slopping, soaking wet, and beat up. Well, we had a blast. And the kid Danny next door to me here, there was a pine tree thicket between us and the other house right off the edge of the field. So we burrowed into these pine trees, literally breaking branches to get back in there. We built this fort. It was phenomenal. Nobody could get to us. Nobody knew where we were when we were there. And Christmas time rolled around. There used to be a functioning windmill across the road from this bar, and John owned it. So he had odds and ends there, like Christmas wreaths and costume Christmas jewelry and stuff like that. So he had this beautiful pin of these 3 candles on a poinsettia bed. I said to him, "What do you want for that?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "I want to get it for my mom for Christmas." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what." He says, "You help me cut pine tree boughs to make the wreaths, and I'll let you know when you." Okay. So I used to go over every day after school until about 6 o'clock at night and help him out in the woods in the dark, cutting pine tree boughs so he could make these wreaths, and then we'd hang around. If we weren't doing that, we'd hang around the thing and sell the wreaths to different people. So finally, one day after about 3 or 4 days, he come over and he said, "You got enough earned to buy that pin." So, okay. He said, "But I'm going to be open for the next 2 weeks till Christmas." All right. So go down and ask your mom and dad if you can stay with me up here for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So that was my first semi job. And so it was right after Christmas. The guy who was selling my mom and dad the bar took a cash deal from a guy in Jersey, and he bought the bar, and we had to move out. So that's going to be ended part 1. Part 2 is going to be really interesting. So let me know if you want to hear a part 2, for that matter. So this is Tom. I'm thanking you for your time and your patience. Forget to share the video. Well, you don't have to share this one out. But, just let me know you like it. That's all. You don't have to hit the like button. Just leave it in the comments. So that's it. Thank you for your time and your patience. And we will catch you guys on the next one.